This is the Schmo with the pro, with the future Hall of Famer, the underground king, in an underground room, in the Velocity training facility here in New Jersey. Eddie Alvarez in the flesh. How we doing?
Any better, I'd be you, the Schmo. Any better, I'd be you.
Hey, that means we can't complain. Now talk to me for a second. April 7th, 1 on TNT. You're fighting Luri Lapicus. Big matchup for you, man. How'd this all come about?
Yeah, so Yuri just challenged for the title. He had his first official loss of his career. Tough opponent, game, young kid, and hungrier than ever. And he's a number 2 ranked guy in the division now. So, like, not just a win over him, but a dominant win over him will put me in line for the title. And that's all I'm looking, is to get that third world title and, complete that trinity to make history.
The first man to get a title in Bellator and UFC. Then he's looking for 1-on-1 championship. Obviously, you've been a champion in other organizations too, man. You be put on a pedestal no other fighter's ever been before.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough to kind of replicate that sort of history. You have to be in the sport a long time, sign numerous contracts. I've been fighting 17 years in order to kind of get this job done. Traveling the world, fighting the best guys in the world, and for me, it's a history that's important to me, and I think it's a history that'll be hard to remake.
And now when you're looking at all these big fighters, the Yoel Romeros, the Michael Chandlers, who you have history with, by the way, it's not about which organization you're fighting in. It's about the fighter himself, and the Schmo feels like you're one of the first guys, if not the first guy, to set that trend.
Yeah, a lot of these new guys kind of are following suit. Like, you're seeing guys starting to leave the UFC, starting to venture out and understand that there's value outside of these other bigger promotions in the United States, and that it's themselves that are valuable. They're the champions. They're the fighters. They're the people who people tune in to watch, and I'm glad that people are kind of following suit and seeing their value, and I'm going to do the same. And I'm here to make history, and I'm here to go after that championship belt. So whoever has it after I dominate Lapicus, I'm coming after them.
And we haven't seen you compete since the fall of 2019. We've had some injuries. We've had COVID-19. What have you done mentally to keep the surge going in your late 30s at this state of your career?
Yeah, so I think it's important in that downtime, if you don't have a fight, kind of help someone who does. So, like, getting with my teammates who have fights coming up, that always helps me grow, learn, and innovate on my own stuff, as well as help my teammates. So, like, that helped me kind of stay in the gym and continue to progress, along with just kind of taking that downtime with my family and enjoying that. Because, like, in a career of almost 2 decades, I don't normally get that. I never get a chance to kind of just put my feet up, relax, and kind of enjoy my family. So that was a reawakening. I got to rejuvenate and kind of remember who I am and what I'm capable of, and come back and do something big.
Let's talk about someone who's a young fighter in one championship, Sage Northcutt. He's obviously had to face a little bit of adversity, and he's still a young guy. What advice would you give a Sage Northcutt who's faced some adversity early on in his career, who's got a long career ahead of him?
I think he needs to crawl before he balls, man. I think the opponents that he's been up against and going up against even now he's going up against some monsters. It's baptism by fire for Sage, and it's like sink or swim. So take his time. Pick the opponents correctly. Have his team pick his opponents correctly, and build him over time. Not try to take on the best the promotion has to take all at once. Build yourself up and take your time and trust the process.
Training with Coach Mark Henry with some of the best pizza in New Jersey, by the way. Let's talk about some of your teammates who haven't had the ball go their way recently. The Frankie Edgars, the Marlon Moraeses. What do you think's next for those guys and your teammates and the road for bouncing back and redemption?
I think it's just having a short memory. Just in this sport in general, you go out there, you put everything into it, and sometimes you have your best camps. You go out there under the lights, and then things don't happen your way. And I think just having a short memory, keeping the faith within yourself when everyone around you doesn't have it is very important. So having like deep rooted faith and a strong belief system and a strong support system, that's what kind of keeps you going ahead and keeps you moving and progressing toward a title. It's just one small series of time in the course of a whole career. So you got to look at it in that way, not just in the small scope of, oh, I lost this fight or something like that. You got to look at it as your full career. This is one short time. It shall pass, and I can move on and become the champion that I am.
Do you believe your former opponent, Conor McGregor, will ever reach the pinnacle again? He's got hundreds of millions in the bank account. Do you ever think we'll see a prime form Conor McGregor ever again?
I think that he has to stay active in order for us to see that again. I think it can't be fight, take 3, 4, 5, 6 months off. I think he needs to get back to how consistent he was fighting in the beginning, where he's fighting 4 or 5 times a year, in order to see him in his glory the way he was back in 2016, 2017, or whatever year that was. But just consistency, him working on his craft, him diving into it, and just having one sole purpose to get better at fighting and to innovate. Until he's able to do that, I mean, it's going to be really difficult because his competition is just doing that.
You're a legend of this sport. Stylistically, who's been the toughest opponent you faced in your career thus far?
Stylistically, that's a great question. There's so many. A mirror image of myself was Mike Chandler. Like he had the same stature, same like sort of athleticism, great wrestling background, power. Like we were sort of mirror images of each other, even size wise and our body structure. So that was always a good task to overcome. Mike was a competitor. He had a heart, a spirit, and we had some good battles. So like he's definitely up there. Mentally, I thought the best guy I ever fought, or the best guy in the lightweight championship picture, was Rafael dos Anjos. I really felt like the time that I fought him, he was killing everyone, and I looked at him as this monster that it was very... I didn't know how I was going to beat him because I couldn't describe that to anyone, how I'd beat him, because he was actually better than me at most things. But I just knew in me that I deserved the world title, and I got through it. But Dos Anjos was a monster. Mike Chandler's a monster. There's a lot of them out there. I have a lot of demons that I went up against.
Both those guys are still competing in the lightweight division. RDA, he's surging as of late. Are we ever going to see the trilogy between you and Mr. Michael Chandler? The Schmo's been chomping at the bit. Can that still happen?
Well, he had a shot. You know what I mean? He was a free agent more than once. And I actually called Mike Chandler. A personal call, called a cell phone, when we were both about to be free agents, and I pitched him the idea of both of us walking into a promoter's office and asking for $2 million for a fight, and he liked my idea. We hung up, and it never came to fruition. But that I called him personally. I put us fighting aside and said, let's do business. Let's try to go to a promoter and make $2 million instead of scraping for $200. So it never came to fruition. He had his opportunity, but I wish him the best of luck in the UFC, and I think he's going to match up really well against the top 5 there.
Ironically, the Schmo just worked out with Michael Chandler in a facility just like this. Coincidence? I think not. Now talk to me for a second. Let's talk MMA Mount Rushmore, the greats of all time in the lightweight division of MMA fighters. We have Khabib, we have BJ Penn, we have Eddie Alvarez. The Schmo just said 3. Who's the 4th one in there?
Next is Frankie, Edgar. He's got to be. Me and him been pushing each other day in and day out for over a decade, and the guy's a beast. He beat BJ at his top. He's conquered many champions over and over, and he's got to be up there.
Yes, and he is the underground king, man. He's got so many fights that nobody saw. Can we get a final message to all the underground fans out there worldwide?
I just, like, over the course of these last 2 decades, just thank you guys for tuning in. I do my best to be as violent as possible out there for you guys. Keep a high pace. Give you guys something that you can't normally see with the rest of the cards on the bout. Something special. Something that you don't want to get up and grab some popcorn or anything like that. So tune in. I'm going to continue to do that. And we have this one guy put away before we get a shot at history.
April 7th on TNT. Eddie Alvarez, the Schmo. We're out.